Rogue Radio. Now available on Mixcloud at mixcloud.com/Rogue Country. Keep it rogue.
What's going on, guys? This is Mike West. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Into the Van. We have Jaime Wyatt today. I'm super stoked to finally release this conversation. Jaime, when I first started this podcast, was one of the guests. I knew it was one of the top on my list of the people I wanted to talk to because I just love his songs, I love his style, I love her ethos, and I knew she'd be an interesting talk, and she did not disappoint. Before we get into that, though, live music is coming back, and I am on the road every now and then. It's not tours, it's not real tours. You know, tours are back-to-back dates, traveling around. These are shows spread out for the rest of 2021, and I really hope you can make them. August 20th, I'm at Wonky Donk Festival with Moonshine Wagon and Sarah Visser and some other amazing folks. August 29th, I'm with Crap Sons hosting their own festival, Crap Fest in Liverpool. They've been guests on this podcast. They're a great punk band, one of my favorite punk bands, so check them out. I'm super hyped for that festival. September 8th, I'm supporting Cam Cole at Jimmy's in Liverpool. September 24th, I'm at Aces and Eights in London, which is one of my favorite venues, for a sold-out show supporting 10 Sheds. September 26th, I'm opening the show for Serious Sam Barrett and Lewis Bernard. That's at the Swinging Arm in Birkenhead, my hometown, and that's a show I'm putting on myself because I really want to bring country, folk and roots acts to my hometown and try and get a scene going here. Then on October 16th, we're at the Desperado Festival at Crumlin. November 5th, I'm at the Waterloo, which is an incredible venue in the UK in Blackpool. That's with the Fargo Railroad Company. Then November 7th, I'm supporting the incredible Nick Shoulders at the York in Bolton. I can't wait for that. That's going to be a phenomenal gig. And then the last gig I've got booked in so far is November 15th at the Musician in Leicester, supporting the legendary Otis Gibbs. I'm so hyped for those gigs. If you are available, you are around at those times, please let me know. Please get tickets. It's going to be epic. I've also, it's been Bandcamp Friday. It's been the anniversary of The Next Life this weekend. On the 7th of August last year, I released The Next Life, and I can't thank everyone who picked up a copy so far. Without you guys, it wouldn't have been the record it was. We wouldn't have got it as far as we had. And, for my own ego, my own validation, to have people like the record that I put, 5 years of writing and gigging and my heart into, to be well received by people, has just been absolutely incredible and humbling. So thank you so much for picking up a copy. If you haven't, you can head over to mike333west.com, head over to my store and use the code NEXTLIFE for 15% off. That's NEXTLIFE for 15%. I'm going to give you a little teaser now just to, see if you're interested, see if you dig it. Check it out.
I've been watching this rain bounce off my windshield. I've been staring at the missed calls on my phone. I've been sitting in my car for an hour now, 'cause I can't bear to go back home. What if I just drove away right now? Let the rain wash away my tracks, away my phone and all that I own, told a lie that I'll be back. That's not my responsibility. That's for you, not me. That's not my responsibility. That's for
head over to my Bandcamp at mike333west.com, use the code NEXTLIFE and get 15% off. I'm not going to talk too much after this. We've got the incredible Jaime Wyatt on the show, and I was, so looking forward to talking to her, and she did not disappoint. She's a great person to talk to. She's super chill. We had this great conversation about songwriting and mental health and even skateboarding and gardening, and, it really went all over the place, and that's one of my favorite conversations to have. It's one of those things where you have kind of questions and ideas lined up, but them being so generous with their time and wisdom, you just get to go on this journey with them, and I really hope you enjoy this journey. So without further ado, this is episode 37 of Into the Van with Mike West and Jaime Wyatt. Welcome to Into the Van with me, Mike West. So we're rolling now, and again, thank you so much for doing this. Doing some of the research for the podcast and stuff, one of the things I read about was you got into skateboarding when you were kind of away from California and stuff. When did you kind of get into skateboarding? Is that still something you're into or something you do?
Yeah, I grew up like into skateboarding, which is so funny because I grew up in Washington State, and we didn't even have like any concrete around. There were like little slabs. Like my friend's house had a little slab, like right around the house where they park the cars, and like that was it. So I'd always like dreamed of California as a kid, and I'd look at these skateboarding magazines. I don't know how I got into skateboarding, really. I guess because it was just, there was a lot of snowboarding growing up in Washington, and skateboarding. That was just, there wasn't a lot of activities, not a lot of stuff happening. It was a very, very small town. And so I got into skateboarding anyways. Watch skateboard videos and see everyone was in California because there's so much concrete. But I just had a gravel driveway, and but it was good. I still skateboard? I mean, I had a skateboard, and then it was like randomly stolen. So so a friend of mine just sent me a deck that I just got in the mail. And I was actually gonna go. Now I got to get some trucks and wheels to throw on there. But it's really cool. This guy Eric Ellington, who's a pro and awesome skater, sent me one deck to like go up on the wall, and one deck that I can ride. He sent me this rad art. He sent me this rad like cowboy painting on this deck that's like it has a cowboy on it. It's super cool. Anyways, I digress.
No, that's awesome. I recently fell back down a skating rabbit hole because I was really into it when I was younger, and then I kind of fell out of it. Was always playing Tony Hawk's, and then they reissued the games, so I was deep diving onto that again, and I've been like following Tony Hawk for ages. And then my nephew's turning 5 in August, and he wants a skateboard for his birthday, so I was like, I'll get him that. And then I was looking at the boards, and I was like, I really want one because I live near like a shore, so it's like dead flat and all concrete. And I'm like, I'm 30 now, and if I break my wrist and play guitar, like that's the thing that always like terrifies me now, is like doing that.
That's the thing, and that is super terrifying. I actually need to order some wrist guards so that I can like, number one, like have some more activities, because I think skateboarding is healthy, and then it's a way to unwind. It's not about art and the competition I have with myself constantly. It's not about that, for me. But if I break my hands, then I can't like do what I love and express myself. So I think wrist guards are next on the to-do list. No, it's funny. I just did like a photo shoot that I can't really talk about just yet because it comes out in the fall. But it was my friend's friend, who's Tony Hawk's son, was on set, and that was kind of cool because I grew up watching and playing Tony Hawk's games, and so that was fun.
Yeah, that's so cool. With obviously you can't talk about photo shoots, but that kind of leads into another thing I know about you is, from like my perspective, you're probably one of the best dressed people in country music at the moment. Like for me, it's like you and Charlie Crockett are always like, decked out, and it's one of those things. And I know you and your mum have made like clothing for you to wear on stage and stuff. What was kind of your concept, or did you go into it consciously being like you want to dress a certain way for on stage or things, or did it kind of happen?
It was a slow progression. It's funny. I've worn like cowboy boots since I was a kid, and really into like Western just fashion and the vibe, right? The cowboy culture. And I stumbled upon suits, just like in my journey. I remember a friend giving me like a Western suit to wear in Seattle, because I just happen to be friends with a lot of like vintage collectors, and she's like, hey, check this out. And I put it on, and I just felt like $1,000,000. I felt powerful, and I felt like, this is my vibe. It was cool. It was like a vintage gold, I think probably a vintage lasso suit. And it was, man, that's like, now I understand like the power suit vibe. I really did feel like that was my vibe, and that it made me feel, you know, like I could get on stage and really like have that presence I wanted. And, you know, it's like, it's one thing to write songs in my bedroom and it be, you know, a very solitary thing, right? Then to present the songs is a whole nother persona that's not really, has never been supernatural. I've always been like more of a writer and more like reclusive, I guess is the word. That sounds super negative, just more like solitary, right? And then as I got into performing, it was like the fashion thing, performing was difficult, right? It's like, it never felt like part of my personality. But when I got into fashion, I could totally, you know, when I got into these vintage suits and vintage Western wear, that was part of the show. And that was fun for me. It's like, it wasn't just about me. It's like, oh, check out this other art that other people made. You know, fashion is an art. Yeah. So yeah, it's been really fun, and really sort of like fashion has helped me build myself up and that confidence and whatnot.
That's such an amazing thing. Like, I've always been a huge Kiss fan, and obviously they're kind of the most exaggerated version of that, is like the makeup, all the leather and the studs and stuff. And like, because I've been thinking, because I play on stage, but what I wear off stage and on stage is pretty much interchangeable. It's just checked shirts, jeans, and I've always kind of been thinking about how to present myself, and obviously seeing you folks like Charlie Crockett present themselves in a way that in of itself is a performance as well. And I was just watching a bluegrass documentary where Bill Monroe, like friends of Bill Monroe, talk about how he wore suits because people he'd play for wouldn't wear suits because of just like their class. They wouldn't be able to like afford one, or they wouldn't have any. And he always said it was like, he wasn't dressing up to show off that he could afford it. It was a way to respect the audience, to be like, well, I'm dressing up for you because I want you to see me at my best. Exactly.
That's also like part of the show, and is, you know, I do appreciate people spend their hard-earned money to buy a ticket and come out, and they're spending their time with me and to see me play and sing, and that's an honor. So I try to honor that by dressing up and looking sharp, and it being, you know, it's like if you're on stage, it's kind of important to me, at least as a front person. Band can wear whatever they want, you know. But me being like, hey, come to the Jaime Wyatt show, I'm like, damn, I better dress up, right?
And is there a particular like fashion accessory or fashion that you take pride in? Because like for me, I kind of just wear this, but I love my shoes. Like I always have like Doc Martens, I have like different like styles on them, or different boots that like have just something extra to them. Is there a particular like fashion item that you really resonate with, like boots or buckles or anything?
Oh yeah, well, I really like these boots that I've got that are actually a modern boot. You know, most of my stuff is a lot of it's been vintage, or now I've gotten more into custom, having, you know, designers sew stuff for me, which is great. But there's this boot that I wear. It's made in Los Angeles, called Paul Kaufman, or PF Kaufman, or PS Kaufman, excuse me. Paul's a friend, and he's in downtown LA, and he makes these incredible boots. They're like ankle boots, and they got like a chunky heel. They're kind of a 70s vibe, but almost like also like a little bit metal too. Like they're really classic, but they're also like kind of rock and roll. So they really feel like me, which is, yeah, you know, that combination of country and rock and roll, and even, I don't know, I have these white ones that remind me of like, man, if Al Green were to like, you know, come to Nashville or something, like that's what they remind me of. So they're super rad. I love Stetsons. I love Stetson cowboy hats, and I love, you know, there's a couple great custom hat makers that are like independent artists, make beautiful hats. But yeah, man. And belt buckles are cool. I'm still working on building that collection. I don't have a ton of belt buckles, just boots and hats mainly. And then I have a couple suits that are like custom made that I pretty much alternate between. I got like a gold one. There's a woman named Sarah Gessner here in Nashville, and her name's Jukebox Mama on the Instagram and whatnot. And she made my suits. It's all gold one that I tried to model off of, Elvis's nudie suit. I kind of use that as a inspiration. And then I got this white one. It's like my Dwight Yoakam suit, kind of. So
cool. And are they like hard to transport when you're touring and stuff? Do they have like specific suit bags and things, and obviously rotating them, you have to like clean them and things. You don't want them just stinking up after a few days.
That's true. Yeah. I usually, I put them in wardrobe bags and I'll try and press my shirts, the day of. But mostly what's rad about like the gold suit is like, it can't really like, it might get wrinkled in the bag. Once you put it on, the wrinkles just like knock out. It's totally fine. And that's also why I love like polyester. I have some polyester suits or gabardine, right? Because you don't even have to worry about that, because being on tours, there's so little time and it's sort of, kind of demanding. But I'm sure as things get moving, then I can have, as things progress in my career, then I can have somebody handling wardrobe. But I've certainly had tour managers pressing my shirt before. I'd be like, hey, was this word like short on time? Could you help me with this?
No, that's awesome. You definitely want to hit that kind of like Dolly phase where she's got just like a whole area like closed off that's just costumes and clothes.
Right? That would be cool.
And with the pandemic and things, obviously everyone's kind of had to take a step back and stuff. I read somewhere that you've enjoyed like gardening and stuff during lockdown stuff. Is that something you just kind of been like focusing on with this downtime?
Yeah, I found it really like, what do I think? It's really funny to say this, but yeah, gardening is really grounding, and like something about being in the dirt makes me feel part of nature, and I can't explain it, but like my whole body relaxes when I'm like weeding, like just checking out the plants, watering the plants every day, and thinking about like what else I want to plant, or later, what I really got to do is I got to prune these tomatoes, and I've never done that, but I don't know. Are you a gardener?
Yeah, I am. I moved in with my partner a few years ago, and the garden was completely totaled. So last year during like the main lockdown, I ripped everything out and rebuilt the whole garden with like railway sleepers and fake grass. Right. But then when I was a kid, my nan and granddad always grew vegetables and things. So in my head, I was, whenever I have my own house, I want to grow stuff. So I have at the back now, I have a potato planter, parsnips, red onions, and then like spring onions and stuff around. We've got a tree with like pollinators for bees and stuff around the side. I did have tomatoes last year and I forgot to prune them, and it turned into an absolute mess. So I had to just
they get massive, right? I mean, but then they'll bear more tomatoes if you prune them, I think. Is that the premise? Yeah. So I'm pretty excited. That's cool. I grew up with, my mom had a great garden growing up, and we had like horses, and so the manure was really great for the soil. And it's so funny. I remember, last year, right, pandemic. So that's when I got into the gardening, made a massive garden. And then I had a friend who has a farm outside of Nashville, and they had compost because they have a ton of horses, which is fantastic, because everywhere else I couldn't believe that, compost costs money. Right. And we always had horses. So I was like, God, I forgot how valuable that stuff was, So anyways, I got some amazing soil. And last year, the bounty was just massive, tons of tomatoes and squash and zucchini. And there's a little cucumbers, some peppers, kale. And that plant is still like that kale thing. That's turned into like a kale tree almost.
That's so cool. Fun. And it is a grounding thing, and you have such like a pride from growing stuff. Like I was on the couch last night. My girlfriend was like, "What are you laughing at?" And I was like, "I used to be cool, and now I'm messaging a guy, about a blueberry bush because he put up a picture of one, and I was like, oh, are they hard to maintain? And I was like, I remember I used to talk about cool shit, not just like
Yeah.
bushes and things.
Oh my God, right? Exactly. I used to be cutting edge, and now it's like, you know, I'm pretty excited about like, oh yeah, okay. As soon as the sun, you know, starts to get cooler, then I can get out there and like weed whack and like, you know, I have a chainsaw, and that's really, really fun.
Yeah. I can imagine when I was cutting the railway sleeves, I had a circular saw. And again, like, I don't know if it's because you're a guitarist as well. The first thing I think about is just like my fingers going under it.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It doesn't stop me, but yeah, I think about it.
Yeah. And with obviously the downtime, so I saw you were doing songwriting and guitar lessons. Like,
Oh yeah.
How did that go? Did you get many people like taking you up on those offers and things?
Yeah, I really did. And I had some consistent students, and it was really amazing. I had a ball. It was really inspiring. And it was, you know, also life-saving in that way too, to still have a connection with people and exchange energy that way, even through Zoom was really helpful to just talk about music, talk about songwriting. It went really well, actually. I was surprised.
Yeah. Cool. Was there anything, I'm not going to try and steal a free lesson from you now, but was there anything that you kind of had as, you know, if someone first came in touch with you, like there was like 5 points that you were thinking of, like what to kind of assess or look at first?
Yeah, I always like, okay, as far as songwriting goes, this is just my approach, and what I value is, I think no matter what, the song should follow the melody, and that the melody should have, you know, tension and release, and that, you know, even before the lyrics, really. But that's just my thing. A lot of people, you know, can write. I kind of doubt, I doubt like Guy Clark and Townes Van Zandt were, you know, thinking about that so much. But I'm just kind of like one of those that I want the melody to be really pleasing, and for it to go in a place where like the average listeners, like, number one, I guess those are called hooks, right? So each section has I believe that every section should have a really memorable hook, and then those hooks should go together so that the very basically said, but it should never go too far left, right? Meaning that you know, we don't want to like stray too far from that like basic feeling, which has that the initial melodic hook, and it has a groove or whatever, right? So I'm real big on that, and I often play the crossword puzzle, basically. It actually might originate for me. It might originate with a melody and a word or a phrase, and then you know, from there it's thinking of other phrases and where does it want to move to, you know. My biggest thing is like, some people think they've got a chorus, and I'm like, I think that's good. I think that's actually the very, very tensiony part, and I think you've got another section that's coming that is the chorus. So I think a chorus is a little simpler than most people think. You know, I think like I almost always think the pre-chorus has the most tension, and often the pre-chorus looks like, also resembles a bridge. So those are just a couple things that I could like ramble on about songwriting. But.
You know, that's really interesting. I remember when Jason Isbell released the Nashville Sound, he was talking about, for the Cumberland Gap, he had a whole chorus that was more complicated than what he ended up singing, which was just like, the Cumberland Gap swallow you whole. And he was just like, well, I'll just repeat that. And that was a really interesting thing to think, that the chorus needs to serve itself. It doesn't need to have that thing. Like, and it goes back to what you were saying. It's like there's a tension to it, and the chorus is the release to it. But it's sometimes hard when someone's written something and they're like, this is the chorus. And it's like, it could be the pre-chorus though, and it's letting
Yeah.
people let go of those ideals.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like it's really, I think it takes a lot of courage to be simple. And it's more so, really half the time people don't hear the lyrics. The lyrics are really for the singer. And then for more in-depth listeners who are drawn in by a word or a phrase, and then they want to know what the rest of the lyrics are. Because maybe once it's on the radio or once it's like you're playing live, all you really hear are like bits and pieces of the lyrics. And I feel like it's, the lyrics are almost, I want to make sure that people can kind of understand them. And I'm usually planning for instances where like my test is always like, yeah, man, that's a really poetic line. Is that going to sing? Is it going to be like, is that going to convey? Like, are people going to understand that's what I'm saying? Or would it be easier to say this phrase? And that's usually the test. I'll have to listen back a lot too, and listen and be like, okay, if there is an instant like that, I'm like, I really need that to be there. Then that's probably for me, and that's, so I'll sing with a little more emotion because I connect with those lyrics personally,
Yeah. Is there a song that you've written with those kind of lyrics when maybe people haven't got it off the first bat or when you've been playing it live, but it's something that you've really like resonated with, and that's been, even though people haven't been able to connect with it and you've been thinking, should I arrange, has there been one where you've stuck with it and that's what it is?
Yeah, in the song Mercy that I put on Neon Cross, there's a lot of lyrics in there I think that probably don't come through on the recording, and that now live I try to really enunciate them. But there's this line of like, so in a verse, and it says, so I bled my horses and I laid down with a pharaoh. And I'm like, there's no way they're gonna really hear that, like that I laid down with a pharaoh. They're probably gonna think it was like fair oak or far or something like that, but eventually they'll get it and they'll see that it, like, to me it was really important. So I was like, it's really important that I, like, for me, be a little bit more poetic and a little more ethereal. And also that a lot of those verses, I was trying to go for some like biblical references. So yeah, I don't know that actually goes through, but it was for me that I say, speak about a pharaoh.
Yeah, no, it's a really important thing, I think. And I remember kind of being bummed out when I found out like Kurt Cobain didn't put that much kind of thought into his lyrics. It was more about serving the melody and the song and the idea of what he wanted to do, as opposed to, necessarily like a John Prine song where it's like every word's like has its like place. And it's one of those things where it's like, where do you kind of bounce to? And you not necessarily have to stick to one songwriting camp, but you have to save the song first. But I remember when it was like reading Kurt Cobain's journals and things, and it's like, oh, he was just kind of like either making them up on the day, or it was more about the feel as opposed to the meaning.
Yeah, and that can totally be a bummer too when we think, like that it's way more poetic than it is. But at the same time, I think that the muse, like this other entity, or when people are creative, I think they're connecting to like a higher, a spiritual part of themselves, and because all it is just being quiet and non-judgmental. And I think that even still, the muse is deeper than we are, right? So I think that even if Kurt Cobain was just like, oh, I was just blah blah blah, he's just selling himself short. It was really, there's moments where you're quiet enough, is almost quiet enough, and you're almost like in a meditative state where you are just like speaking, it's your subconscious speaking. And in a lot of ways, I have written things that ended up being like foreshadowing of my life, and I didn't even know what I was writing about until later. And I found that out. Yeah. So it's like, that's why I really believe in the spirit of songwriting and art, is that I think that it's connecting with something greater than myself.
No, definitely. I always kind of like, I'm not Buddhist, but I really love like their type of teaching. And there's one thing where it says like something can't come from nothing and nothing can't come from something. I always think with like songwriting creativity, like you aren't pulling it out of nothing. It's always coming from something, and that's some parts yourself, some parts a higher power or an ether that is then all kind of mixing together.
Exactly. I mean, that's why I speak of like the higher self is that actually that's directly from like, you know, whatever I've read about Buddhism, and not to say that I'm a practicing Buddhist or anything. I'm not that disciplined, right? I just can like meditate with an app every day, but it's enough for me to get connected. And you know, and music in itself is a meditation. It's you know, hypnotic, right? And honestly, I have tried to, you know, whatever I think a song is about, that's just for me. And for someone else, it's really important sometimes that I make things a little more general so that someone has an opportunity to embrace their own meaning, which is cathartic for them and therefore healing in some way, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's what you do really well as a songwriter is you have these autobiographical approaches, but they have not necessarily like a specific term or a specific setting that then other people can kind of latch onto, which is a really important thing as a songwriter that maybe like when people try and go specific, it kind of loses the hook of it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm really glad that that's coming through. Cause I often have to edit myself a lot and I'm like, man, how specific do I want to be here? And I could be so specific, but then it's like, then I rob people of a moment that it's for me as a young person. I heard songs that probably helped me through life and helped me figure out certain things and helped me like cope with where I was and you know, the human condition. And because I was given that gift, I've got to give it back.
That's such an amazing way to put it. Are there any bands or songs that kind of stick out from you that like guided through? Because like my go-to is always like Linkin Park, because I was just obsessed with them when I was young. That was the first album I ever bought. But is there anyone that kind of sticks out to your mind? Like if you listen to their songs now, it takes you like right back, or it's just reminds you of those times?
You know, you brought up Nirvana, so I've been thinking of it since. I'm trying to think if there's a specific, I mean, yeah, Nirvana was big for me growing up, because there was so much like angst in there, right? And there was a lot of like depression, and I think it spoke to my own depression and confusion. And I'm trying to think if there was, I mean, All Apologies, or like, I don't know, there was that one, I'm on a plane, I can't complain. That sounds like nonsense, but it's just like, you know, maybe that's talking about like being less connected and feeling apart from, you know? And I definitely felt that way. So yeah, there's so many acts. I grew up in Washington State, so I did have like that huge grunge influence, and then I had the 90s country, and then also British bands and rock and roll bands like the Rolling Stones. As simple as you can't always get what you want, but you get what you need. I know it's so cliche, but it's so true. And it's oftentimes like what I need to hear are just simple messages. And then, you know, of course, I love Lucinda Williams and I love Steve Earle. You know, Steve Earle is a great lyricist. I think there was a time when I started going on the road with my band where I had a 4-pack habit and a motel tan, you know, as he said in that song Guitar Town. Or yeah, I grew up on a gravel road, and Lucinda Williams was singing about car wheels on a gravel road and the screen door slamming, and we had a screen door, and it's just like, you know, those little details that are so beautiful about life.
Yeah. No, that's like such an amazing thing. Like, I've just been starting to get more like tattoos, and I've just got a John Prine tattoo, which is just a TV on fire. Because I wanted to get
blow up your TV.
Yeah, because I wanted to get a load of music tattoos, but I didn't want to just get lyrics. So I was trying to think of how I can get like pictures to represent them. So like the next one I want is like one of those old school diving helmets with a halo for like Holy Diver and shit like that. I've just been trying to.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I have that's awesome, dude. And I totally love that approach instead of, because otherwise I would just end up with a whole bunch of phrases all over my arms, right? So I had one, this was like a drunken tattoo, but one of the few drunken tattoos I'm okay with is the it was a cowboy hat with a halo. So it's a cowboy angel. And it was Graham Parsons reference out with the truckers and the kickers and the cowboy angels. So yeah, man, I'm definitely into that. I love the just showing the phrase instead of just having a written phrase.
Yeah, like I want the Holy Diver one, and I'm gonna get a set of lungs next for like Towns Van Zandt, and I just want to try and get like things like because I've got a sleeve of like guitars and stuff, so I just want to get like little fillers that like match stuff.
Yes, that's awesome, and I love Towns Van Zandt, by the way. That's a really important songwriter right there.
Yeah, he's like one of the gold standards, I think, of like him, Guy Clark, John Prine, and Chris Kristofferson, and four of my like favorite songwriters.
Chris Kristofferson, he was on the Outlaw Cruise when I played the year before last, and that was, or was that last year? That was last year, right before the pandemic. Literally days before they just like shut down everything. I was on the Outlaw Country Cruise, and Chris Kristofferson was there, and we went to we got off in Jamaica and went to Johnny Cash's house.
Oh, really?
And with like Carlene Carter, and Chris Kristofferson was singing in the living room. It was pretty surreal. That guy wrote some incredible songs, and some of the best. And even like that, Loving Her Was easier than anything I'd ever done before.
Yeah.
So simple and just so heartfelt.
Yeah, no, like he's my favorite guy. I saw him just before he retired last year. I saw him in Manchester on his last UK run, and it was just like I knew I had to go see him because he's old. I was like, how much longer is he going to be doing it for? But it was still just phenomenal. And he had Scott Joss on fiddle, and I think he had some of Mel Haggard's backing band with him as well, which was just a phenomenal thing.
Oh, and so then it's like a double whammy too, because then you're getting like another part of history too with the Merle Haggard's backing band.
Yeah, and they did a few Mel songs, I think, as well, which was amazing.
I love Merle. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, but kind of with that history of country music, and I can't even imagine being in Johnny Cash's house with Kristofferson. Like that just sounds absolutely crazy. But with that kind of music and stuff, you've been doing some DJ sets with that Gimme Country radio show. What's kind of been your approach to DJing and like making kind of playlists and finding new music for when you've been doing those shows?
Yeah, some of my friends turned me on to some great like sort of deeper cuts. I would read about certain artists that over the pandemic I got obsessed with Tammy Wynette, and just over the last few years I was kind of like, God, is Tammy Wynette was she like the best country singer back then? And I started to think that to myself as far as just emotional vocal deliveries. As far as vibe, it's like Waylon, and for a male voice, it's probably Merle, straight up, right? But anyway, so I read this bio on Tammy Wynette and started kind of like just listening to more of her albums and just cruising around. I love just driving around and listening to music, and then I did this special for Merle's birthday, and and then I started to think about, I love it when other artists would cover the hits. So like Waylon did this incredible version of Today I Started Loving You Again. And that was the coolest because Merle had this incredible voice, but Waylon had feel and vibe that would recreate songs in these super cool ways. So yeah, so I did a lot of those, like try and find deeper cuts that way. And mostly, you know, I'd start with like the hits. I love the hits. I think most they're a hit for a reason.
Yeah.
And you know, especially like start with the playlist, like real, you know, exciting and something up tempo. And then I love classic love songs, and I would look for like kind of classic feels, and then I would go to some deeper cuts, and then I'd try to like bring new artists or modern Americana artists in, but then go back to classic. And so I just introduce newer singers in between a bunch of classics, so that it would still like, you know, so people could still be like nostalgic and they'd stay on the show as a result. They'd stay listening, right? It's almost like back in the day when I used to play bars, you know, we'd do a ton of covers and then put in original songs because, you know, then you would keep the audience happy. Right.
Yeah. No, that's so cool. I'm gonna be doing a listeners show for Gimme Country on the 24th. So
awesome.
I'm recording my stuff this week to send over to them with the playlist, because I do a little radio show over here in the UK, trying to like platform like UK country artists as well as international acts and stuff.
Nice.
So I knew I'd be talking to you beforehand, and obviously with the shows, so I definitely wanted to pick your brain about that kind of thing. But with country radio, does anything stand out for you that's been impactful when you've been listening to the radio? Because I know there's a huge divide in the States about country radio and what it is and what it isn't. Has there ever been like influential moments when you've been listening to radio that's kind of stuck with you?
Well, I've been listening to the country radio here in America.
Yeah.
I mean, no, not no, not pop country radio, but back in the day, like back when I was a kid, yes, like Trisha Yearwood and the Judds and Garth Brooks were on the air on the radio. So that was really important for me as someone that loved country music, that I got exposed to that era. And then there are like Americana radio stations that have turned me on to new music that I've just, you know, it's totally blown my mind. And I wish I could give a good example lately, but I can't as of late. But yeah, it's weird, man. It's you know, maybe outlaw country on Sirius XM or like some of the smaller Americana stations, but not pop country radio anymore.
Yeah. No, it's a weird one with kind of radio and how like everything's kind of been democratized since the internet. So it's still weird to me, especially from a foreigner's point of view, looking at American radio where people are still kind of relying on them for things, because a lot of what, like, I don't have a TV that has, you know, channels for the UK. Like, it's all Netflix, streaming, YouTube, stuff like that, where it's like you go and look for specific things. So it's still interesting to me that people rely on something so big and mainstream to, you know, get their music and also try and like think they're gonna find new things. And there's such a wealth of stuff, just not even like deep under the surface. It's literally, if you looked there, you'd realize.
Yeah. Oh man, it's crazy to me to think that like Tyler Childers and Sturgill Simpson are not on the radio. I just like, it's crazy to me. But you know, that's where like streaming has been positive. It doesn't pay the artist much, but it's been instrumental in discovery. Just those algorithms when you're listening. And actually, shoot, I found a lot of things on to put on my Gimme Country radio show from just listening to Spotify and something coming up afterwards, like when I'm not paying attention, like when my playlist runs out or whatever, right? then something will come up and I just go, whoa, what is that? That's amazing.
Yeah, it's both awesome and terrifying that Spotify algorithms know you that well that they can just throw something random.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but with the rise of streaming and stuff, do you think your career and your music's benefited from this kind of democratization of the internet, where it's not necessarily a level playing field, but you can find those niches and those audiences without mainstream support and without that kind of backing?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It's been really helpful. I know I got a lot of followers who found my music directly through the algorithm on Spotify, So it's been huge, really helpful in that way.
Oh, awesome. And with Neon Cross, are you writing a follow-up at the moment, or are you working on any new music now, or is it planning on just going back to touring?
Well, I've got to go back to touring, but in between, I have been writing and I'm working on new music for the next record. And I've got like a handful of songs, and now I just got to give them better demos and then I'll figure out. I'm trying to think about, once that collection gets sort of a theme, I'm already considering where to cut the next record and thinking about that. And hopefully these songs will guide the decision, or maybe it's the vibe in the studio, or meeting with different producers and being like, is this inspiring? Maybe that's what will happen. But also going out on the road is a part of my process. So I go out in August, and I start in Texas, and I do Colorado, and I think it'll be really good because I get really inspired after a show too, to see like how people reacted and what grooves and what they responded to, what were they singing to the most, what was the most emotionally connective and gratifying. So that'll influence it, and I'll probably get more songs going after, sharing the live performance and the live experience with an audience.
And is that with a band as well?
Yeah, with a band. Yeah.
So with the new songs, do you take them and rehearse them first with the band and then kind of get into a groove, or do they kind of evolve live with new licks or rhythms and hooks as the tour goes on?
The feel doesn't change too much. There's a couple songs that I found the grooves are harder to maintain live, or they don't hit as well live as they do on the record. And so we've, already kind of begun to adjust those. Sometimes tempo, sometimes like some songs I'll slow down, some songs I'll speed up. Usually the hook stays the same. I notice I'm the one with the most freedom, right? So I'll adapt certain melodies for sure. Yeah, they do. They grow. The songs grow when played with a band, and it'll be interesting to see too how much they grow beyond where, how far do they go.
No, that's awesome. And with Neon Cross, I read that you sent Shooter, your producer at the time, like the demos for the songs, and he kind of not necessarily picked the songs, but said that one's really strong or whichever. Are you kind of doing that same process for the next album?
Yeah, I haven't. I'm not bouncing them off anyone yet. So that'll be interesting how the next producer approaches the song collection. But I know I listen back and I'm like, I'm still editing a ton. I listen back and I'm like, okay. And then I'm just thinking about it all the time. And I'm like, do I just go back to the original idea on that melody? Do I go less words there? More words here? Is that story working? So I'll be editing these new songs for like a while. But yeah, no, I can't wait to get back in the studio again. It's just weird and different to not tour a ton before making the next record. But, I'm hoping to be in the studio over the winter working on a new record.
Because you released Neon Cross in May in the States and then August in the UK. So did you
Yeah.
get to tour that album much? Obviously you toured it before the release with the new songs, but you didn't really get to tour Neon Cross as a whole, did you, as a tour?
Yeah, no, not as a tour, but I have played sort of spotty dates, you know. I played like a festival in Florida, and I played I'm playing this weekend in Kentucky. And yeah, just like a few shows, you know, and I did some live streams last year. But it's different, you know, and I did some like limited capacity shows in January and February, and that was cool. But yeah, not the same as being on tour and playing like night after night.
Yeah. Did you think about delaying the album release last year, or was it just kind of the wheels were already turning to make it go?
Yeah, you know, I did want to push the release, and it just wasn't possible. And I don't know, like I still think it was probably the best thing, even though it got out there, the album, and people found it, but there's a lot of people that didn't find it yet. So it's I don't know, man. It's interesting. I think that this next record will have to lead some people to Neon Cross in a way. So yeah, I did want to push it, and it was because it came out, and then, you know, in America we had like George Floyd's death was publicized that week that my album came out, and it was just a really important time to be listening to the message that was going on, that was in the movement. So it wasn't as much about me promoting myself.
Yeah.
And I do believe that everything's meant to be, and there are no mistakes in this universe. So I think that it's just like, if anything, just like caused me to go back and work on my voice and work on myself as a person. And I'll be that much stronger when I, you know, hit the road and don't stop touring for the next 10 years or something.
Yeah, no, I think that was like a really important thing. Like, it's obviously a time to listen and pay attention to what's going on around you. And the last thing you want to do is to try and turn any like spotlight onto yourself. But with Neon Cross, like, I always kind of think about, with any album, it has, at least in press and stuff, they're always like, it's like a 3-month shelf life of things, but that's for press and reviews. Like, someone in 20 years could find Neon Cross, and albums have such like a longevity to them, especially when you press them on vinyl like you did with yours, where it's got unlimited potential to be discovered, which I think is one of the beautiful things about music and film and art, that it may have, you know, 3 months in the zeitgeist immediately, but it can just permeate through time for however long, until the world burns up or the last record player exists.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I'm really proud of Neon Cross, and I'm really proud of the songs that I wrote, and it, you know, I'm just it put me on a good path for writing for like maybe the rest of my life. You know, I've tapped into a vein.
Yeah. No, like, I'm a huge fan of Neon Cross. I'm a huge fan of Felony Blues, but Neon Cross to me was one of those albums that was just like a game changer. It was just like, this is, you know, front to back, a brilliant album.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's awesome.
Thank you. You did the album. It's like no hyperbole. It is a brilliant record. With coming over to the UK, I read, so your first UK tour was 2018, and then you did like a festival date in 2019. Were they the only times you've kind of visited the UK?
Yeah, mostly. Mostly. I think I've done, so I did that tour with Charlie Crockett, and then before that I did like a tour by myself. I think I was just headlining the tour before, but the last time I was in UK was with Charlie Crockett, and that was super fun. But my plan is to get over to UK even more often. I'm in the process of booking a date in Norway, and so I'm like, well, I'll be in the neighborhood, you know. So I'd love to get to the UK. I love England so much. And it's just like, talk about fashion. There's great fashion in England, and great tea, great people. I love the rain. It's pretty dreamy for me.
With kind of growing up in Washington, I know that's the kind of Pacific Northwest. Is that a similar kind of climate to the UK? Do you reckon that's what resonated with it?
I think so. Yeah. It was that, I just think growing up in Washington, yeah, it's a very similar climate. A lot of, a majority of the year in Washington, the weather is, there's a gray cloud cover and it's a constant drizzle. And that just like forced me to be more dreamy and, write poetry and play guitar and read books and just daydream. I think that England has such great music and art as a result, and great writers as a result of that climate,
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting way to it's a poetic way to say English people were stuck inside because of the rain and had to take their own fun.
Yeah, for sure. But there's something, there are benefits to every situation. And I think that probably true Englanders that will go outside no matter what, rain doesn't stop y'all. But yeah, for me, I was like really grateful to grow up in the rain.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, I know I'm not built for sun in any way. We've had like insane hot weather here lately, and it's just been an absolute nightmare for me. Again, I just kind of looking at it's doing the garden good, but I hate this.
Yeah, right. I know. I was like, well, I don't have to water the garden, which is so wonderful. But I feel the same way. Like I'm mostly Irish and some English. So I always joke when it's really, really hot, I'm just like, my people weren't made for this.
Yeah.
I'll get a sunburn.
Yeah, definitely. I go up for like 2 minutes and immediately burn. It's horrible.
Yeah, a sunburn by the window.
Like I was reading as well. I was like, for prep of this, were you working on a mini documentary as well, throughout this, or have you been working on one of those for a while?
It's ongoing. I'd started basically wrote the treatment and started talking to people and directors. It got too complicated with COVID. But I would like to continue on with this mini documentary about different, like each episode would be a different topic each time. One's about women in the industry, and another would be about like LGBTQ people in music, and also a big one, mental health. I think is becoming more of a widely talked about issue, and that's one that pertains to me, and being in recovery and always trying to keep my head together and stay grateful and stay connected and connect with others. I'd no longer connect over a pint, right? It really, that's why I love tea and coffee now, but more than that, like it's just about sharing space with others, right? So yeah, but I'm really passionate about the mental health stuff. It's just like, it's becoming a conversation to continue, especially I think mental health was detrimental during COVID. The pandemic really pushed a lot of people to the edge in some way. Yeah,
I think it's really important what you're doing is bringing those topics to it. And I think in a silver lining way, I know the pandemic, it did push a lot of people to the edge, but then it was a lot of people turned around and went, none of this is okay. And it's led to a lot more conversations. I think if there is a positive or a silver lining to those things, it's a lot of people knew what their limits were then, and a lot more people were feeling freer to admit that they weren't okay and the situation wasn't all right.
Yeah, Exactly. And just talking about it more and more, right? We used to, I think as humans, generations before ours, even my mom's generation, they're fine, right? You ask them, they're always fine. I'm fine.
Yeah.
You just don't talk about it. You handle your business at home, and you go out in public and you're great. You're always doing great when people ask, and you know what I mean? And it's just like, that's not possible, by the way.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about generations that like dealt with war and
oh my
like
gosh, right.
insane things, and they're like, yeah, it's fine, and you're like, no, it's not. Because I've been watching Bo Burnham, the comedian, released that thing Inside, which is he shot a special completely in one room of his house, which is it's a really interesting special if you've not seen it, and it's all music and like spoken word kind of stuff, but it really examines kind of his self-awareness and his mental health as he's going through it, because he records it and like he starts off freshly shaven and haircut, and then at the end of it he's just disheveled. But in one song he's singing about turning 30, and one of the lines is, when my granddad was 27 he fought in Vietnam. When I was 27 I built a birdhouse with my mum. And I was like, and he kind of viewed it as a negative thing of what that generation did compared to what his generation has. Well, I kind of was thinking about it today, and I was like, that's a really lucky thing that when we're 27, we get to do those things with our mum and not have to be in such an awful condition. And it's that kind of perspective shift for me where it was like, it's okay where we're at now, and it's okay to talk about those things that we didn't get to talk about necessarily if we were born 50 years prior.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did see, of all things, I saw something on social media that rang really true to me. And it was talking about, okay, so is our generation, are we just weak and sensitive? Are we highly sensitive? And this person or personality was on the internet was arguing that we're not more sensitive or weaker. It's that there's this idea of generational trauma that I believe to be true, and that it builds up and it's passed on to the next generation. Whatever wasn't dealt with or was dealt with destructively and taken out on others, it's passed on, and even just subconsciously passed on to the next generation. So if you think about it, it's like we've inherited all this other trauma that's undealt with things, unexpressed grief. We've inherited that, so we've got that in us, in addition to whatever our current situation is now. And now, with so much ability to share information, it's almost like the fact that you can get your email on your phone. Your boss is going to be like, why haven't you returned that email yet? Yeah. You can access it at any point. It doesn't matter that you're off. Like, it's, if you're doing project-based work or, so we're all kind of workaholics now, and this constant flow of information and communication, this constant pressure of looking and keeping up with the Joneses by watching the internet all the time. There's more pressure now. So it's like, I didn't fight in the war, but I'm pretty sure my grandfather didn't do therapy after that, after he did, So I don't know. It's just interesting to think about.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if you think in like the terms of history, like my nan remembers seeing her dad get blown through a door, because where we lived was close to the docks, and that was where we got bombed. So it's like she has that memory, which is a trauma, and it's just like she doesn't talk about it. And obviously a lot of people would have dealt with that, but that was only 90 years ago. We still have people from that time. So it's in that hit, like it's only a short period of time that we've been dealing with it, and it's only really in the last 5 or 6 years where those open conversations have really taken place.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting. And when anybody, I always have to remember too, it's like when if somebody's trying to judge the younger generation, it's only because of lack of understanding. And the older generations they were just constantly in survival mode, and we just have a choice now. Do we want to be in survival mode, or do we want to do more than merely survive? We want to train our bodies to get out of survival mode and get into like living and being in the moment, and and meditating, or whatever, just mindfulness, awareness. There's a choice now, and older generations didn't have that.
No, it's right. It's crazy. And I think you can see sometimes, not from like everyone, but there is a resentment at like us having a choice now. Like I see a lot of people complaining about like, well, why should we cancel student debt now? Because I didn't get mine canceled. And it's like, well, it sucks, but it doesn't mean we should shit on the next generation for it.
Oh my gosh, right? I don't want, and that is hard, especially money. Money is so hard. I think it's a source of so much stress and resentment. But it's kind of like, I would what I've learned through, like where even religions are correct, right? And I'm not religious, but it's just, even, do unto others as you would do unto yourself. But I don't want people to suffer as much as I have, right? I want this world to evolve and get better.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. If someone has the opportunity to heal more than me, I'm going to say absolutely. But I get it with money, though. That's a hard one to let go of.
Yeah. Especially like I've seen all those kind of tweets about like all these billionaires are retreating to space. Like they know something's going to happen. And it's like they could just, fix pretty much everything in the world if they just donated 10% or some shit. But it's one of those things where it's, if you've acquired that much money, you're a psychopath anyway, so they aren't going to help.
Yeah. And then there's the argument of like, well, they worked for it, so why should they have to give it away, or why do you have to share it? There's this your rights are your rights, and freedom at all costs and all that stuff. But it's that's so funny. I was watching some show this morning about that, billionaires going to space and whatnot, and that's all great and good, but how about like childhood cancer?
Yeah, that was a big thing this week because Richard Branson, the guy who owns Virgin, he was complaining last year how he wanted like a government bailout during the pandemic. And then this year, he's like, we're going to space. And it's like, how fucking dare you? It'd be like your mate asking to borrow a tenner and then showing up the next day, like decked out in like the newest like Air Jordans or some shit. And you're like, I thought you were broke, motherfucker.
Yeah, that's a good analogy, man. That's right on. Seriously. Or how about like Kanye West like getting one of those small business loans? Like what? Not a loan, a grant.
That's insane.
Yeah, I know it. It's crazy. But sense of humor has, because there's a lot of things to be really pissed off about. There's a lot. I have to laugh about it. I have to acknowledge that, that stuff bothers me. Sometimes I just have to laugh about it because it's ridiculous. It's so unjust. It's so wrong at so many levels. I'm happy that I'm not that person that is that self-obsessed and self-concerned. So.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I think that's where kind of, I don't know if it's just because I'm a songwriter, but it's like when you have that perspective of kind of looking into things, it helps you kind of appreciate the smaller stuff, and it helps you kind of turn your focus away, because you could dwell on the big, horrible elephant in the room, but you're like, but if we focus just over here and we write a song about it, we can, turn that into an experience that other people can share and other people can relate to, and it might just make everything else a bit more manageable.
Yeah, exactly. That's such a gift with songwriting. I also I'm so grateful that I learned about songwriting from a young age. It's given me the will to live through difficult things, and because it's just such a great tool. And I think that, you know, in the same way, like comedians or comics are so great about talking about serious things and making it relatable and just biting off, you know, there's so much going on in the world, you know, biting off those little, like you said, just take that one little thing and talk about it. And you know, taking the world in small bits is manageable, but looking at the whole picture,
you just drive yourself insane.
Everything at once. Yeah, it's overwhelming otherwise, right?
Yeah. No, definitely. But you know, we've hit past the hour mark, and I don't want to keep you too much longer. So you've got a tour planned for August, a new album, and hopefully some UK shows soon. Because I haven't seen you live yet, and that's one of my regrets. Because I've obviously I was doing some research, and guys, I saw you came over in 2018. You played Manchester, which is like an hour away from me, and I was just like, fuck. Because I was talking to someone the other day because Nick Shoulders is coming over to the UK in November. Yeah, in November. And I was just like, make sure you get your tickets because you don't want to be kicking yourself about not going. Like, because I remember I saw a sign for Margaret Price playing a coffee shop in Liverpool when I was in like uni, like 8 years ago. And I was like, who's that? Ah, well, and carried on my day. And I realized who the fuck Margaret Price was. I was like, God damn it. Are there any shows like that you kind of remember or anyone that you've missed out on that you were like, fuck, who's that? And then you realize like a few years later or even a month later.
Oh man. I mean, probably so many. I know there are like, there's artists that I did see, you know, and that I look back and I'm like, man, I saw them in such a small club. And I saw like Drive By Truckers when Jason Isbell was in the band and at like small clubs, you know, and that was so loud and so rad. But yeah, man, I'll be coming over to England as soon as possible, 2022. And I am going on tour next month, August. I'll be playing with Nick Shoulders in Denver.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then in September I've got dates. November I've got dates. They're all US right now, but only because the business just kickstarted back up. So I'm really excited for booking in Europe. Like I said, I'm booking in Norway, so England is next to handle.
Amazing. Well, we can't wait to have you. I'll hit stop there if that's good with you.
Yeah, man, it's been my pleasure. It's really fun to talk to you.
And there we have it, folks. That's episode 37 of Into the Van, Into the Bag. Please go check out Jaime Wyatt's music. She is phenomenal. Neon Cross is one of my favorite records that came out a while ago, and I still play it. It's one of my favorite modern country records, and I really think you'll dig it if you've not listened to it so far. Please keep supporting the podcast. If you've enjoyed this, please go leave a review wherever it is you're listening to it. I know that does really help things. And yeah, just keep on supporting the things you love, guys. Till next time, peace.